Fun with black holes. It's Sanctuary of Reality, my comic review series. Time now for Cerebus issue 185, the 35th chapter of Mothers and Daughters. Siren and Cerebus gaze wide-eyed at their surroundings. The throne stairs continue to crumble, sending them up onto the throne block for safety. It and they are now flying miles up above East. Siren is overwhelmed with fear at the realization, gripping the throne with her one good arm. But Cerebus, he's looking directly at the moon and is focused, having made this trip once before. He shows no fear. Siren proceeds to read his mind. What will she see there, and what is her reaction to it? So, at the edge of the universe, the reader argues with the fact that the ball of light that is the universe is called a him by Victor Davis, not a she, as was stated during Church and State. It's like one big sun, with the heliophysics therein, such as solar flares and prominences firing off into the void. The reader realizes what Victor points out, that that's the light ejaculating into the female void. We go back further to the beginning, when the light and the void first met and became a couple. But they weren't close enough for her. She wanted more togetherness, oneness. So the light attempted to bridge the two of them by expanding outward to try to reach her. In doing so for too long, the light merely expends itself, and the void moves on to the next light. It's done that many times before, but with our particular universe, things have evolved into the human being as a representation of their game. The double helix, the perfect example of the centrifugal metamorphosis. Victor talks about life out of balance. He asks what the reader thinks of a woman willingly sleeping with a potential boss to get a job. This separates the readers by gender. He talks about the time Alan Moore's ex-wife and ex-wife's girlfriend criticized the movie The Last Temptation of Christ for not having any strong women characters. Victor talks about merged permanence. Can two snakes eating each other's tails become one snake? Emotion is the void, and reason is the light. Are these two interchangeable? Equating all light in the universe as seen from afar to the big round glowing white strange thing, the character from earlier on in the series, is illuminating, no pun intended. As gets established here, the void is female and the light is male, which is the opposite of how it was laid out in Church and State. But the big round glowing white strange thing is female, and that's actually a plot point from the Latter Day storyline that's coming up. But we now know that the light is actually a echo of the universe made by the void. That's also brought up in this particular issue. So that makes a little bit of sense, I guess, to explain why light is female in this particular case. When Dave gets around to invoking scripture into this particular case, it actually gets a little bit easier to follow. Though by the time we get to latter days, if you thought this particular text stuff was dense and hard to follow, you've not seen anything yet. This is Dave's second of 3 attempts to explain the origin of the universe. The first one was the romantic version. This one is the metaphysical version. The next one will be the religious/scientific version. This is the only one that Cerebus is never privy to. As such, it's actually the one that is least important to the book overall, despite having themes that are important to the very core of the series, especially since this takes place pretty much the halfway point of the series, so you can't get any more core than that. So what did I think of this particular issue? Well, I think the Victor Davis stuff is getting a little tougher to follow as it's getting more and more metaphoric and abstract. I can see just wanting to give up and skip over the text portion. It's certainly easier that way. It's pretty clear by now what Dave is trying to say through Victor Davis. But reading shouldn't always be easy. It should challenge you sometimes. New words, new ideas, new perspectives. I hate sounding like a second-rate LeVar Burton, but it's true. Next time, the most controversial comic of all time.